And today's journal prompt is we're starting the Epics and Heroes unit. So your journal prompt today is, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? Be prepared to share. We'd like to share in this class.
I heard a lady on the radio. They were interviewing this musician, and they said, "Well, if you could have a superpower, what would you have?" And she said she wanted to breathe fire. And they're all like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, because I'm always lighting candles."
Make sure to write 5 sentences so you can get your full credit. Full 5 sentences. Another minute. Make sure you count your sentences. You have 5 at least. I want to give you full credit. Finish your sentence or thought. Okay, Tiffany, what would your superpower be? Immortality. So you never want to die. Immortality. Terry, what about you? Run fast, like the kid from Incredibles. Run fast. Alyssa, what's your power? Be able to fly. Austin?
I was already said.
Huh?
I was already said.
Oh, it was already said? Okay. Shaughnessy?
To be invisible.
Invisible. That'd be mine too. Invisible.
What would yours be, Austin? Which one do you want to be?
Fly?
Yours is fly.
You want to fly?
Yeah,
Iris, what's your superpower?
It's Iris.
Which one is it?
I'm flying.
Flying. Okay, does anyone have a superpower that's not up here? What's yours?
There's not the ability to do anything, but if I was to choose one, like basically that is one, but with all together, but if it's just one power, it would be the ability to swim underwater for hours, basically.
To have gills. To swim underwater without needing to breathe. Are there any other ones that haven't been listed? So everyone wrote one of these? Okay, what'd you write? Mind reader. I want to know everything. Anything else? Okay, so how many people had immortality? Just me? You're all alone, girl. How many people had you want to run fast? 2. To fly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What about be invisible? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And to swim without breathing? Does anyone else but Nick, you want that? Okay. Alright. So, when we think of these, we obviously think of superheroes, because they have superpowers. But what are some characteristics of everyday heroes? Not super powered heroes. What are some characteristics of them?
Courage.
Courage.
Bravery.
Courage, bravery. What else? Truth. Truthfulness.
Ability.
What'd you say?
Responsible.
Responsible.
Honest.
Honest. Anyone else besides Zach and Austin? Strength. That's it, strong.
Strong will.
Strong will. Okay, so you can embody any of these characteristics and be a hero to someone. You don't have to be a mind reader or be immortal or be invisible. You can still be a hero to someone. Okay? So you can pass up your journals, and we're going to look at a PowerPoint that's going to introduce what an epic is and what the Epic of Gilgamesh is about. We're going to start reading that tomorrow. You have 7 questions. They go in order of the PowerPoint. Not that bad. We're going to talk about it. But you need to write your name on this because I'm going to want it when you walk out the door. As a reminder, if you're sending me a blank piece of, or a notebook piece of paper, get a journal soon. Okay? Oh, an extra. Will you pass it back up? There's extras, just pass them back up. Unit 1, that's the first unit of our book, and it talks about the ancient times. And the first thing we're going to read is the Epic of Gilgamesh. So this unit covers a time period from 3000 BC to 1400 AD. When Ms. Ashby gave you that timeline, this is the first one, okay? So there were several major civilizations that developed in the fertile river valleys of Southwest Asia and Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia means the land between 2 rivers. between the Euphrates and the Tigris. Sumer, number 1, was the first civilization in Mesopotamia. It influenced Babylonian and Assyrian civilizations that followed. And the Epic of Gilgamesh was originally written by Sumerian. And it's one of the oldest works of literature known today. Zach said earlier, it's really old. And it's another of the first that were contributed by Sumerian civilization. So what is an epic? Epics are long narrative poems about a larger-than-life hero who is engaged in some dangerous journey or quest. This danger, this journey, this quest, it's important not only to himself, but to his culture, to his nation, or to his people. It has significance. It's not going to White Castle. It's going to do something really important. There are 2 types of epics. There's the folk epic. And these are stories about heroes that were originally recited or sung. So they're passed down orally from generation to generation, storyteller to storyteller. So we really don't know who first came up with it, who first thought of the idea. It just got passed down until finally writing became available and they eventually wrote it. And literary epics were written. We know who the author is. Okay? They usually borrowed the style and characteristics of the folk epic, and some drew upon well-known stories, characters, and myths that were passed down. So they, even though they were writing, they still used some of the information from the oral traditions to aid in their storytelling. So I'd write folk epic, passed down orally, no known writer. Literary epic, we know who the writer is. Okay, those are the main differences. 1, no writing, before writing existed. 2nd one, we know who everyone is. Okay? Everyone got number 2? Don't write the whole thing. Folk, oral, literary, written by an author. Okay, I'm going on. So, folk epics. As you see, number 1, the Epic of Gilgamesh is a folk epic. So, was it written or was it passed down orally? It was passed down orally. You'll also see a lot of you read the Odyssey. It's a literary epic. We know Homer wrote it. We know that Dante Alighieri wrote the Divine Comedy, which we're going to read later. We know that John Milton wrote Paradise Lost. We're also going to read the Mahabharata, and it's a folk epic. And you'll read Beowulf your senior year, probably, or in college, and it's a folk epic. Okay. There are 4 elements of the epic. Number 1 is an epic hero. An epic focuses on the adventures of the epic hero. The epic hero is strong, brave, loyal, and virtuous. He's sometimes flawed, but that's okay. He's usually elevated in society. He has a high rank in society. A lot of people know him. And he may even be semi-divine. Gilgamesh, who we're going to read about starting tomorrow, is 2/3 God, 1/3 man. So that makes him semi-divine.
Like the movie Troy.
Like the movie Troy, or Percy Jackson, an Olympian, whatever that is, the lightning thief. Okay, an epic conflict is number 2, the 2nd element. The plot of an epic centers on the hero's struggle against an obstacle or a series of obstacles. The hero proves his strength, wisdom, and virtue through valorous deeds, success in battle or adventure. So for number 1, I'd write strong, brave, loyal, and semi-divine. For number 2, I'd probably write the plot centers around it and ends in a battle or a massive adventure. Okay, number 3. Excuse me. A heroic quest. Often the hero's adventure takes the form of a perilous journey or quest in search of something of value to his people. So like I said, he's not going to White Castle. He's going to find something important to his culture. They need it. They need water. They need the gods to forgive them and let it rain. They need something. He's going to do something to help his people. And the last element is divine intervention. The epic hero often receives help from a god or some other supernatural force. A different god may work against the hero. Okay? So there's usually a rain god, a sun god, some kind of mystical being that helps, that intervenes. So a heroic quest ends in the big battle. It's the journey leading up to it. And divine intervention means that there's a supernatural force. Okay? Number 5. Epic conventions. These are specific literary characteristics prevalent in every epic. If it's an epic, it has the stuff in it. Okay? Number 1, there are 5. Number 1, I just write the bold words. An epic usually begins with an opening statement of theme. It tells you what we're doing. We're going to the mountain to get water because we're infertile. We don't have anything growing. We need water. Followed by an invocation, which is a divine intervention. We need water, please help us. And a rain god comes down and helps. So invocation or appeal for a supernatural help. Okay? The story begins in media res. It means in the middle of things. So it's not once upon a time there was a kid and he was born and he grew up in the Gilgamesh and then this is what he did. It's, we're walking up the mountain right now. And this is what we're doing. So it starts right in the middle. You're plunged right into the action. And then there are flashbacks or other narrative devices used to tell the story that we've missed. To tell about childhood. To tell about why we're doing this journey. Okay? So number 1, opening statement of theme followed by an invocation. Number 2, in media res. Okay, number 3. An epic has a serious tone and an elevated style that reflect the importance of the characters and the themes. So it's not a lighthearted, funny comedy. There's not jokes being thrown around. It's pretty intense and serious. The epics often include epic similes. Epic, as we talked about yesterday, means massive, important, big. We all know what a simile is, so they're elaborate, extended comparisons using like or as. And the last convention is the epithets, or stock descriptive words or phrases. In this example is supposed to say, the gray-eyed goddess, gray, not grat. The gray-eyed goddess Athena, man killing Hector, the wine-dark sea. So those descriptive words with the dashes in between, those are epithets. So we have 3, serious tone and an elevated style, 4, epic similes, and 5, epithets. Okay? So as you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, we want you to focus on the epic hero. Analyze his virtues, his strengths, and his weaknesses. Make sure that while you're reading you understand what he's seeking, where are we going, what's he doing, and consider how the object of the quest is going to impact his culture, his people. To identify the culture and the cultural values, then you need to figuring out what it conveys about the culture that produced it. This came from the Sumerian culture, so what is it saying about the Sumerians? Okay? To pinpoint this, identify the values the hero himself embodies, and how he changes, and the values he ends up respecting in the end. So where he starts as a person, and where he ends as a person. That's going to tell us what kind of cultural values are important. Although it's a poem, you need to read this as you would a story. It tells a story. It gives you a narrative of what's happening. First this, then that. You know, poems are really hard to read. You want to pause and make them rhyme and all that. But this isn't like that. You need to read it like a story. Okay? Straight through. So, a little information on Gilgamesh, the epic. It's a long narrative poem named for a Sumerian king who lived between 2700 and 2500 BC. Although it's an ancient text, the topics are still really relevant and important. And those are how to become known and respected, which a lot of people want to be infamous. How to cope with the loss of a dear friend, a loved one, a pet. How to cope with loss and death in general. And how to accept one's own inevitable death. Sorry, Tiffany, we're not immortal. It's sad. I wish we were too. So at some point, we're going to have to understand that death is a part of life. It's going to happen. It's an action-packed story. There's lots of battles, gods, goddesses. There's heroes, tests of strength and wisdom, and hard journeys. So it's not boring. There's a lot going on. It's like bam, 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 right after the other. It's one of the world's oldest written works of literature, and it tells the story of the hero's quest for fame, knowledge, and immortality. Okay? So I want you to take a minute and finish number 6 and number 7. We talked about number 6 a little bit. Courage, bravery, truthfulness, responsible, honest, strength, and strong will. Add whatever you want to add, leave off whatever you want to leave off. And tell me who your heroes are. It can be your mom, LeBron James, your grandma, the lady down the street who bakes you cookies. It doesn't matter. Tell me who your heroes are. Okay, the last thing we're going to do, we're going to watch a video about Gilgamesh. Okay, you need to keep these papers out, make sure your name is on them. I want them as you walk out the door, okay?
Funding for this program is provided by Annenberg Media.
It's really the first buddy story, the first road movie.
It's a good source. Gilgamesh is lumped in there in my head with Moby Dick, Beowulf, and Captain America. Plenty of action.
Sex, romance, there's violence, there's adventure.
Maybe it's survived as long because it can become a little bit of something for everybody.
This is the epic that includes most important philosophy.